Great.
Okay, and we're on. So welcome everybody, and thank you for joining us. This is a joint venture between North Carolina Youth Rugby Union and Advantage Rugby Referees. This is Rugby. Go to the next screen. Yay. So part one tonight, we're going to cover rugby values, the history of the game, and some basic laws. We hope you'll join us again next week for part two, which is going to cover variations of the game, rugby around the world and in the USA, as well as an overview of rugby sevens. And in 2 weeks on 9/29, part three will cover 15's law and referee signals. I am Amanda Cox, North Carolina Youth Rugby Administrator, and joining us tonight's Richard Every. He's the head of Advantage Rugby Referees. Richard had an illustrious career as a referee and then served 10 years as referee manager for USA Rugby. He just finished up a 3-year stint as ref manager for Major League Rugby. And Richard's designed this program specifically for our union. So thanks for joining us, Richard.
Thank you.
North Carolina. Yeah, me too. North Carolina Youth Rugby is the state governing body for youth rugby in North Carolina, and we're affiliated with USA Rugby. So USA Rugby is a member of World Rugby, the governing body for rugby union in the world. And we're going to kick off this section with an inspirational video from World Rugby.
So as you can see from that wonderful video by World Rugby, that rugby is a team sport that benefits the group and the individual. Without a doubt, it's physical, mental, as all competition is, but safety is always the primary focus. Everyone involved has a responsibility to make sure that the environment is positive, that it is safe and enjoyable. And a good example of that is, Amanda, rugby values. Amanda, are you there?
Sorry, the mute button got me. In 2009, the World Rugby member unions identified these core values as the defining characteristics of rugby. The core values were incorporated into the World Rugby Playing Charter, which aims to ensure that rugby continues to be unique on and off the field. Integrity, established through honesty and fair play. Passion, which generates excitement and a sense of belonging. Solidarity, discipline, and respect. By adhering to our core values, rugby people everywhere ensure that the sport is a spectacle with intense contests, but it's still a welcoming environment and a sport that can be enjoyed by all people.
And these values really come to the fore when we look around the country, around the USA. The Notre Dame women's team, in their recruitment drive, captured the values of rugby and the Because of Rugby campaign. Because of rugby, I'm fearless and resilient. Because of rugby, I found confidence I didn't know I had. Because of rugby, I'm part of something bigger than myself. I'm mentally and physically strong, and I know I'm not too small to have a big impact. The great thing about the game is that rugby is a sport for all sizes, big and small, fast and not so fast. In the 2019 Rugby World Cup final, one of the stars from South Africa was Cheslin Kolbe, who was only 5'7".
Peter Steph Dutoy, here's Cheslin Kolbe, hits kick from Kolbe, inside, Kolbe is gone! Outstanding finish from Cheslin. Threat having someone like him has on the outside.
Smallest man on the field was told he wouldn't be a Springbok because he was too small. That
Rugby really is for everyone.
All right, what do you need to play rugby? So to play youth rugby, you're going to need boots. Cleats are called boots, and they are nice to have on the grassy playing surface, but they aren't needed to play. You're also going to need a mouth guard. Players wear uniforms which we call kit. It consists of matching socks and shorts, as well as jerseys, which are generally passed out by the team before the game. The number on your jersey signifies your position on the field. Your team will be able to help you with sourcing kit.
And the goggles.
Oh, right. Yes. And we also have World Rugby approved goggles, which if you need more information about those so that you can play with your glasses on the pitch, you can just contact someone at North Carolina Youth Rugby and we'll help you figure that out.
Excellent. So now we get to go back a couple of centuries about the brief history of the game of rugby. So rugby originally comes from association football or soccer. And just for some information you may never need to know, the word soccer is an abbreviation of the word association. So association, ASOC, is where soccer comes from. So the legend goes that apparently there was a young man by the name of William Webb Ellis in a soccer game, decided that he was going to pick up the ball and run with it. And the legend goes that it happened in 1823 at a school in England called Rugby School. And the rest is as follows. In 1845, the first rules were established. And in 1871, the first rugby union was formed in England called the RFU, which is the Rugby Football Union. You might wonder what that has to do with the USA. Well, many English students studied in the USA in the 1800s. And not standing for them imposing the game on America, a gentleman by the name of Walter Camp from Yale in 1880 decided he was going to change the rules to what would become American football. The main changes was that the contested scrum became a line of scrimmage without a contest for possession and with a snap. And he also changed the number of players from 15 down to 11. And obviously it evolved into all the other rules. If you go back to read about Walter Camp, you'll find out that he actually set down quite a lot of the rules that remained up until this day. Another sport that evolved from rugby is basketball. And Canadian James Naismith in Massachusetts wanted to create an indoor activity during the winter months. So he combined ideas from rugby, lacrosse, soccer, and a few others, and gave birth to the game of basketball. As rugby evolved, the captains in rugby would together make decisions. However, and as was expected in 1892, as you can only imagine, there was a disagreement. So instead, they added a person who would be brave enough to accept criticism from players, coaches, fans, parents, stray animals, and the like, disagreeing with him. So it was important that the referee was dressed appropriately. And as you can see from this next video, which is the earliest known footage of a rugby match, that the referee is dressed very well in a blazer and a hat. And that's the history of the game.
Great. Well, as you may have just seen, rugby is played with an oblong ball. The rugby ball is the same length as an American football. It's rounder on the ends, and it's bigger around by the American football by almost 3 inches. It's also made of a synthetic rubber, unlike the football, which makes it a lot grippier in your hands.
And it bounces funny.
It does bounce funny. There is no question about that.
Yep.
The ground. So the rugby field is commonly called the pitch. And while football fields are a standard length and width, rugby fields have a range of sizes that are permitted by law. The area between the goals is called the playing area and is a maximum of 100 meters long, that's about 110 yards, and 70 meters wide, that's 77 yards. On average, the rugby pitch then is about 10 yards longer and 27 yards wider than the standard American football field. The areas on the end of the pitch are called the end goal, and this area is the same or similar to the end zone in football. It's where you score. So how do you score? Much like football, each team has a side they are defending, and you score by grounding the ball in the opposite end goal. So to ground the ball literally means to touch the ball to the ground in the end goal area. And when you ground the ball in the end goal, it's called a try, and it's worth 5 points. All right, now we've got a video. This is France in blue playing Wales in red. The ball is passed out from this tackle to the backs, and they're gonna beat them on the outside with a stiff arm. And there's another stiff arm too. And she goes 50 meters for the try. Watch how she launches herself in goal for the grounding. The ref's gonna whistle and raise her arm in the air to signal for the try. And then all the fans cheer. All right, now in this scenario, we have a scrum near end goal. Wales is defending their end goal, and the scrum gets pushed backwards. Wales players stand up. The referee is going to blow a penalty against red for standing up in the scrum. It's illegal. Ball's restarted with quick tap. There, the 9 dives in goal for a try. And here's going to be a replay of that from another angle. You can see the 9 come around and dive in. 5 points.
So the next way to score is through kicks. And the first one is after a try is scored, the team who scores has an opportunity to kick at goal. And it's called a conversion, and it's worth 2 points. And they've got to take it in line with where the ball was grounded. So when you watch rugby, you'll see players try and score as close to the post in the center as possible to make it easier for the kicker to score those 2 points. Another way to score with a kick is through a penalty goal, and that's 3 points. And in rugby 15s, the conversion and the penalty goal, the kicker places the ball on a tee and kicks it. Whereas in sevens, for instance, they drop kick it in. But we'll see, here's an example of a player taking a conversion kick with the tee, and it's right from the side touchline, and it's a great kick. And you see the assistant referees put the flags up if the kick is over. Now, another very exciting way of scoring in the game whilst the game is in play without a stoppage is through a drop kick. So a player can drop the ball on the ground and kick it. As the ball hits the ground, they kick it. And if they kick it over the posts, it's also worth 3 points. And here we have some examples of fantastic drop kicks. There's 3 examples coming up.
Don't move, stop. Okay,
plenty of time and space for Rian Falloon. He's having a drop goal attempt. He struck it long as he got the direction, distance. Oh boy. Oh.
Youngster set up there with lots of young players coming through. Oh, look at that. It's a drop goal attempt. It's absolutely massive. Look, oh my word.
Oh my Lord.
Where did that come from?
Touch for Paulson. Montgomery with him. Australia now rushing up. Long range drop goal from Montgomery. It's there.
It's quite amazing. And the first 2 examples there, they were kicking the ball almost 60 yards. So they're very, very massive kicks, and can be very exciting. And often you'll see teams use it, especially towards the end of the game if the game is very close. They would do that.
Okay, basic laws of rugby, passing. So rugby is a relatively simple game. Ground the ball in goal and score more points than your opponents to win the game. But the catch is you cannot pass the ball forwards. So you can run forward carrying the ball into space, and you can kick forward into space. But all passes must go backwards or laterally across the field. So here's a video of that. In this clip, we've got San Diego in red and Seattle in green. The red scrum half passes the ball out backwards, and then 2 more backwards, somewhat lateral passes to the space outside where red has a go up the sideline. He grounds the ball, and the referee awards a try. There's a replay on that, and you can see that that pass goes pretty flat. And that's how you use space in rugby while passing backwards.
The idea is to move the ball into space because the ball moves faster than the player. Tackling. Sure, you've noticed from the clips so far that the team on defense tries to stop the team with the ball from scoring by making tackles. And safety is primary in tackling. So the first rule is tackles can only be made on the player carrying the ball. You also cannot drop your shoulder into a player. A tackler must show an attempt to wrap the arms around the player he's tackling. And finally, anything around the head or neck area is illegal. In youth rugby, tackles should be at armpit level or below. And here's the video of some pretty good tackles. I think everything's legal here. This last one's a great catch by 21. Hooks him right around the leg. The amazing thing about rugby is that you can tackle people much bigger than you very low and they still go down. It's all very exciting. So next we move on to 2 of the restarts, and the first one is a scrum. So a scrum is awarded for a technical infringement, such as a fumble, which we call a knock-on, or a forward pass. The team that did not infringe put the ball into the scrum. There are 8 people from each team in the scrum, and essentially it's a pushing contest. At youth level, however, a dominant team can only push their opponents back 1.5 meters. But this is what a scrum looks like from above. You can see the 8 people from each side. Here's an example of the Women's Premier League final. This is a scrum between Glendale and Life West. So the yellow team, which is Glendale, are putting the ball into the scrum. And you can see that they get pushed back a little bit, but they still retain possession and keep the ball out. The next restart is a line out, and that is when the ball goes out of bounds or into touch, as we call it in rugby. So the ball goes out of bounds, it's restarted with a line out. Teams form in a line with a gap, and the ball is thrown in between them. So if team A kick the ball out, team B throw the ball in. If a team has been awarded a penalty, they can also kick the ball out of bounds, and then they get to throw the ball in. So they get that gain in ground, and they retain possession. This example here is where yellow had a penalty, and they kick the ball out of bounds. So they get to throw the ball in. Remember, in rugby, they say that the ball is in touch. So the 2 teams line up. Yellow throw the ball in. You can lift up your players to catch the ball. Right, so that is our time for some questions and answers. If anybody has any questions they'd like to ask Amanda or myself before we go to a summary and chat about next week. You may have to unmute yourself if you would like to ask any questions. Were you at these games, Amanda?
Yes, I was there and made sure that the referee crew was running on time, and did a little referee coaching while I was there. So it was nice. It's a humongous tournament. I think it might be the biggest youth tournament anywhere. It's definitely the biggest on the East Coast.
And this is all high school?
Yeah, it's all high school. There's middle school. There's some middle school rounds in there too, actually, because my daughter played there this year.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, and it's so big we have to bring in referees from all across the East Coast to cover it. So
yeah, a lot of people there. It was great, all the highlights that they have on their website here.
that is actually done by a member of the Raleigh Rugby Club. He started a company that does sports broadcasting.
Yeah.
Streaming, live streams. So all rugby people.
Very exciting. So if there are no questions, then we'll go on to summarize. So again, we covered today the values, which are integrity, passion, solidarity, discipline, and respect. We talked about what you need, which are cleats, mouthpiece, and kit. And remember, we also said for those players that wear glasses but don't wear contact lenses, you can get prescription goggles that are approved by World Rugby. We talked about the roots of the game from 1823 with the legend from rugby school, and then onto how rugby influenced sports around the world, especially here in America, American football and basketball to an extent.
All right, we also learned about the pitch and the ball as compared to an American football. We covered scoring. Remember, a touchdown is called a try, and it's worth 5 points. The conversion after the try is good for 2 points. A penalty or a drop goal will net you 3 points. We touched on some basic rugby laws. including passing backwards, tackling the ball carrier legally, and we covered 2 set pieces, or ways to start the ball back into play, called the scrum and the lineout.
Excellent. Now, next week, we will be doing This is Rugby Part 2 on September the 22nd, and what we will look at are variations in the game, rugby around the world and in the USA, including opportunities for young players to play rugby at colleges and go to universities, and what some of those scholarships will look like. And then we will also showcase the game of sevens. Here is an example of the USA women's team winning a World Rugby Sevens Series final.
Are they about to break one-on-one? You're not surely going to stop Alona Mar from there. They pressed and pressed and pressed the United States, and finally Australia broke. What a gripping first half, and it is the USA who sneak ahead. Mar, and now Ember just short. And she's there again. It could be the moment that helps the US, but this year they have been too good. They have had to grind their way through at times, but we're a class above in the final. States champions in Glendale.
It's very exciting. And we know next week when we talk about rugby around the world in the USA, you will see that the USA feature in sevens, especially in the top 5 for men and women. And then in 15s, the USA women's are ranked number 7 and the men number 16. So all in the top 10 and top 20. It's all very exciting and looks good for the future of rugby.
It's awesome.
In the USA.
Thank you so much, Richard. It's been great.
Absolutely. And we hope we will see everybody and more in a week's time.
Yep. Thanks everybody for tuning in today, and have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.